My name remains Engineer Theocracy. Today we're going to discuss a very important lecture. But let's go to the farm to do this. I have some feed to give to my snail. Please come, let's go. Sometimes some persons will ask, do SRT have farm? Is there farm in does he have his own farm? Today, we want to discuss lecture. And the topic of the lecture is the difference between Agric snail and bush snail. Some persons will tell you, bush snails are better than the one you farmed. The one you farm are Agric snail, while the one you pick in the bush are bush snail. Today we're going to discuss about that. I'm going to the farm. Let's go. Yeah, the topic for today is Agric snail versus bush snails. Now, let us differentiate them. Let us explain them in detail so that you will understand when people complain that the bush snails is sweeter or better than the farm snails. My viewers, I stand at this point to notify the public that there is no difference between a Greek snail and bush snail. What do the snails eat in the bush? The snails have access to varieties of plants in the bush. They eat different plants in the bush and they feed on them. Whenever it is daytime or before daytime, they look for the best cool place that has a very high humidity to sleep. The next day they wake up, they move around and they continue to feed on plants. Different plants with different nutrients and minerals. That's what makes them bush, because they were born in the bush. Their mother hatched them in the bush, and after incubation, the eggs hatched. They move their life in the bush. They eat from the bush before you finally pick them in the bush. Now, what is now the difference between the one you farmed yourself? Yes, we also create the bush. That same bush you are talking about out there, we create the bush here, and we pick up these snails and we put them inside the farm. And we allow them to eat whatever they want to eat. When you talk about formulated feed is feed that cannot be planted in the farm. For instance, corn. You don't plant corn in your snail farm because corn, with time, will start producing some weevils, some caterpillars. Those caterpillars will infest the farm and it's not good for the farm. So therefore, we make sure we get that corn. The corn itself is a carbohydrate and energy for the snails. We get this corn from outside. We use it to mix some other natural plants, grinded into powder form. I will give it to them. Then, for instance, today I'm feeding them with pawpaw and corn chaff. Yes, I did this corn at home. My son said, "Daddy, are we giving this to the snails?" So of course, yes, we are giving this corn chaff to the snails. And this corn chaff is not chemical. This pawpaw is in my garden. I pluck it. It's ripe. We feed enough from them. The remnants we give to the snails. These are natural food that you give to snails in the farm. Yes, you don't need to go to the shop to go and buy canned food, chemical food. When you feed your snails with chemical food, that is what we call Agric. But let me shock you. Snail doesn't eat anything chemical. There is no chemical you put in for chemical food that you give to your snail to eat. So those mentality of telling you that there is a Greek snail, what makes it a Greek? Is it because you farm them? No. What they eat makes them a Greek. Now, when you start something is a Greek, then for instance in the wild, you have to snail have to grow like 1 year before growing to maturity. Now you bring them to the farm, you farm them, and within 2 months, 3 months, they're already big. There's something you gave to them that makes them expand overnight. There's something you gave to them that makes them expand, not get it up to 1 year. That's what we call Agric. What is that thing you fed them with that makes them swell up? Pause. Snail doesn't do that. Snail doesn't do that. Now, let me tell you one thing about snail. If you keep feeding your snails with food that makes the shell rise, mineral, proteins, and you are not giving them calcium, you see that the meat will be filled up. The shell will be small, but to the point that the meat is coming out of the shell. Because the meat is expanding, the shell is not expanding. What will make the shell expand? That is what we call calcium. Calcium carbonate. You see, this is the reason why if you do not give the calcium carbonate, the snails will be eating your wall. They will be eating wall. The block you use in fencing the land, the block you use to demarcate your walkway, or the floor. The snails will be eating the floor. You wonder, what are they eating in the floor? They are hungry. They are starving from calcium carbonate. Now, let me tell you one thing. The cement they use in producing the block, the cement you use in flooring the farm, the cement you use in fencing the compound, it is produced from calcium phosphate. Calcium phosphate is used to produce cement. So the snails are eating that calcium phosphate in place of calcium carbonate. That is why you see snail eating wall. Yes, snail can eat raw cement. It might be damaging to humans, but it's not damaging to snail because the rock content of that the cement, which is the calcium phosphate they use in producing cement, that is what the snails are eating in the block. So by the time you see your snail feeding on the block, on the floor, just know that they are suffering from calcium carbonate. And if you refuse to give the calcium carbonate, the meat will be bigger than the shell, and they will be feeding on every available block they see in the farm because they are starving from calcium carbonate. Therefore, there is no difference between Agric snail or bush snails. It depends on what you feed them with. There is no snails that can eat chemical food and survive. Yes. Why? Because they are strictly vegetarians. Snails are vegetarians. They eat all veggies, things you think that they will not eat, vegetables, they eat all. That is why we advise, do extensive farming system. Extensive farming system is a system where you plant varieties of plants. Now, let me tell you one thing. If you plant 10 things at a farm, according to nature, things that will grow from the earth that you did not plant will be more than 50 combined with your 10. So there will be varieties of things that will grow in the farm. Snails feed in all because those plants were naturally from God, who created the earth to allow vegetables and vegetations to grow in the earth for animals to eat, for vegetarians. This is El Santi Snail Farming reporting from Lagos. Final note. There is no difference between Agric snail and farm snail because both in the bush, both inside your defined bush, both of them eat vegetations. Both of them eat natural things, strictly vegetarians. So do not allow anybody to confuse you, especially when you want to sell your snail to tell you, they want to price you less because you farm the snail. They'll be deceiving you with the logic on the notion that says, I used to buy the ones from bush. Those ones are good. This one that is farmed is cheaper. No, they are not cheaper. They are the same thing. So please note, this is what I have to say about this. Do not be deceived. And any of you carrying that notion, whatever, please bring your snail, give them chemical food, and see if they will survive. They will not survive because they are strictly vegetarians. Is there any vegetation that is canned? There is no vegetation that is canned. No. If it is beans, if it is corn, they are all natural. When you put chemical into them and give your snails with those chemicals, those preservatives they use in preserving canned food, you give it to snail, be rest assured that it will cut their intestine. Their intestine will be damaged and they will die. So therefore, snail does not eat canned food. Snail does not eat chemical food. Snail does not eat anything chemical that makes you quantify them as agric. No, they are all vegetarians and they all eat the same thing, both outside and inside. I do not allow anybody to demean you and your snails that they are Greek snails. I say no. I said say no. They are not, because both are vegetarians. I remain Engineer Theocracy, the Inspector General of Ilam Mollusca. Thank you.